One. Hey, welcome back to High School Game Day here on the Missouri Sports Network. Certainly glad you've tuned in. Presented by Labor's Local 663, Great Southern Bank, Doak Propane, Shelter Insurance Agent Grant Baker in Aurora, and Bank of Billings. And as always, the Missouri State Highway Patrol reminds us, take that 3 seconds and buckle up. Here on our Bank of Billings segment, we welcome to the show Marionville Comets head football coach Paden Grubbs. Coach Grubbs, thanks so much for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Really appreciate it.
You bet. 6-0 on the season, top 10 state ranked. What are your thoughts on the season up to this point about the Comets?
Well, so far so good. Coming into the season, we were pretty high. Hoping to build off last year's success. We returned 8 starters on the defensive side of the ball, and we thought really going into the season that the defense might be a strong point of our season, even though, maybe years past, all you hear about really is offense last year between our running back and quarterback, which we'll probably get to. But on the defensive side of the ball, we're playing at a pretty high level right now. Our kids are flying around, and they're kind of carrying us right now. So we started out the year pretty slow on the offensive side. We're starting to kind of pick some things up offensively. But very, very proud of our kids with their effort and just willingness to continue to embrace the process, which is something we started, 6 years ago when I became head coach here, just trying to get a little bit better each day.
Starting slow, you scored 100 points in your first 3 games.
Yeah.
But defensively, you've given up 22 all year.
Yeah, and that's again, defensively, we've been playing very good football, and a lot of that just comes down to effort. Our effort on the defensive side has been very, very good. We have been tackling better over the last 4 or 5 weeks, so we need to continue that trend. You bring up I feel like starting the offensive stat there kind of, I don't think about stuff like that. I just see it from a coach's perspective. But felt like we maybe were feeling a little pressure early on the offensive side, especially quarterback Will Carlton. I think he was, feeling a little pressure, trying to do a little bit too much, be perfect instead of just being Will. And I think he's settled down over the last 3 or 4 weeks and has really started to play good football and just using his God-given abilities to play the quarterback position and trust his reads. And with his ability to run and throw, it makes our offense that much better. But I feel like over the last few weeks we've started to turn a corner to get better on the offensive side as well.
Yeah, I mentioned the first 3 games, 100 points. In the last 3 games, you scored 150 points or 142 points. So obviously that's working. Now, you mentioned you got 8 guys coming back on defense. Well, who are the guys that you lost, and who did you replace them with offensively and defensively? Who has stepped up this year to really kind of take on a role?
Yeah, on the, I'll go first with the guys that we had lost from last year. So the big thing going into this year for us was going to be offensive line play. One of the big reasons for our turnaround last year, besides having good athletes, was we lost 4 offensive linemen, last year. And those guys would be Austin White, who's now playing at Westminster. We lost Jeremy Messenger, who's now playing at Evangel. And then we lost a really good center in Adam Phillips, and we lost a really good offensive tackle in Kelby Parker, who are now going to college. And, coming into the year, we were going to have to replace those guys with guys in the program, that have been putting in the work to get better and been doing a good job at the JV level, getting better, knowing that their time was coming. But across what we did to replace those guys, we moved All-State lineman Eric Gracia around a little bit. He was a guard for us last year. We moved him to a left tackle position. And then we have sophomore Dalton Russell filling in at doing a good job at left guard. We have a newcomer that came out this year, Colby Gann at center, who's getting better each and every week. Then at right guard, we actually moved our H-back, Coy Ditmar, to the right guard position, and he's honestly been the spark that we needed across the offensive line. He's kind of the heart and soul of this team, the hype guy, and he's been doing a fabulous job at right guard and been really the reason why we're starting to click, I think, offensively. And then at right tackle, we have Mark McCann, who's getting better each and every week. When he came here 2 years ago as a sophomore, him and his family moved here from Marshfield. He never played football before, 160 pounds, 6'2" kid, and now he's a 230 pound, 6'3" kid. And so just the work that kid's put into and just falling in love with the game of football has been one of the big reasons why we've been able to be successful on the offensive side this year, is just guys and attitudes and work ethics like Mark. And then we lost on the defensive side and offensive side. We lost All-State Kyle Bratton. He was an All-State tight end last year, kind of our go-to guy offensively. And then on the defensive side, he was a first-team All-Conference and All-District linebacker as well. And I don't know if you can necessarily replace a guy like Kyle with just one guy, but that's when I go back and say, like, from a team perspective, defensively, we are really at the linebacker spot. Sophomore Hugh Eaton filled in at his linebacker spot. But it's really just been the rise of play in our returning linebackers that's really helped fill that void. And, that's really what you hope to get from returning guys whenever you lose good ones, is that they become better. And Hugh is getting better each and every week as a sophomore linebacker. He's actually our leading tackler right now on the defensive side as a sophomore. So it just goes back to that work ethic. And, I think that taste of success last year that kind of, fuels that fire for the off season to get better. And then you see that in some of the guys that I mentioned there. At the wide receiver spots, we returned all of our wide receivers from last year, minus Kyle, who we also split out on occasion. But again, we have seniors now and guys that won the state championship in baseball as juniors stepping in and being athletes. And Wiley Brown, Jackson Smith, our go-to guys at the wide receiver spot. But then we have, guys like Blaine Young, who are starting to fill in and start now at the tight end spot. He's learning it and getting better at it. And, you have guys like him who are just winners. He ended up getting the win in the state championship game last year in Class 2 baseball, and just have a bunch of guys right now that love to compete. And, whenever you have guys like that to go along with the brothers of Paden Kleinline and Canyon Kleinline. Canyon's a sophomore starting at defensive line for us, that's filling in. And then Caden is our starting corner, probably our number one corner as far as shutdown guy. And he's starting to catch some footballs for us too, to help us balance it out on the offensive side. So I know I went a while there, but we just have a lot of guys filling in that are doing a great job and doing their job. And, really proud of them for the way they've been playing up to this point.
Visiting with Marionville Comets head football coach Paden Grubbs. And coach, there's not really, you mentioned a couple of different times that state championship in baseball they went through, and there's not really anything that you can replace with that experience of being in a one and done, type of situation, making a state run. That's going to filter over and help all the programs. But it's really, you're really benefiting from it, in football as well. And you went 12-1 a year ago, losing to obviously a very good Windsor team to end the season there. And that's got to be something that you kind of feel like maybe you're on a collision course with them again, but you've got a game in front of you tonight. And that's with this weekend with a very good 5-1 Sarcoxy team at their place. What are you going to have to do to come out on top there?
Well, first thing we're going to have to do is our job. Offensively, they pose a lot of threats on the offensive side of the ball. They're big. Their backs are big. Their backs are fast. They run flex triple option. So we're going to have to keep our eye discipline is going to have to be very good and not pay attention to the motion, but key our reads. And then, we're going to have to tackle the guy that we're supposed to tackle. I think tackling is going to be the number one priority this week. We'll get guys to the spot. Now, can we finish the play and tackle? Can we continue to set our leverage points on triple option? As far as our guys getting to pitch, and are we going to flow from backside to, once we get those leverage point sets with their speed, to be able to tackle it in space? So they posed a lot of threats on the offensive side of the ball to us defensively. And then on the offensive side of the ball for us, but we just have to continue to execute at a high level, try not to do too much, just more of our mindset offensively is just take what the defense has given us. We're comfortable playing in a low scoring game and we're comfortable playing in a high scoring game. So, we can't try to do stuff that we're not really capable of doing, and we can't do stuff just because we want to try to hit a big play. We just got to take what the defense has given us. And we're fine with 4 and 5 yards, 3 yards, okay, on the ground, and we're okay. We're just as good hitting a hitch route as we are trying to hit a fly concept. So it's just, again, that just goes back to will offensively, just trying not to do too much and just running our offense smoothly.
Coach Grubbs, you mentioned earlier this year, I believe your 6th year there at Marionville. Kind of talk a little bit about where you came from, how you arrived at Marionville, and some of the coaches on your staff that have been with you.
Yeah, you bet. So I was actually a 2005 graduate of Marionville. I got my love of football, and I felt an early calling in the high school level, playing under Coach Will Christian, who's now at Lebanon. Great impact on my life, a mentor, somebody I really loved and looked up to, and I still visit with him about weekly to this day. And they're having a great season as well. But I felt a calling early to be a coach, and my mom was a high school counselor, so I was kind of always around school. My dad was a high school basketball coach at Crane for I don't know how many years, but I went to a lot of Crane games growing up, which now, it's probably not a good thing to say being from Marionville, but so I grew up in Marionville, graduated from Marionville. I didn't actually go back to college. Coming out of school, I wasn't sure what I was really wanting to do in regards to the school aspect. So I actually took, I can't remember exactly, probably a year and a half, 2 years off before I actually went back. I probably went back to college when I was 20. And started playing baseball at North Ark in Harrison, Arkansas, and got my associates there. And then I went on to sign a baseball scholarship at Southwest Baptist University. And I finished up my degree at SBU in Bolivar. And then my last year at SBU, Coach Lance Roten, who I was doing observations under through my program, asked me to come be the linebackers coach at Bolivar under Shad Edwards and Lance Roten, and a lot of good guys over there that I got to learn from. So I went and did that for a year, and that really kind of sparked it, kind of helped me remember, oh yeah, this is what I love doing, and so did that for a year at Bolivar. I can't remember the exact year on that. I remember Rafe Peavy was a sophomore and Darnell Walker was a senior. So we had a pretty good team that year. But following that, I got a job at Marionville, and I actually started out being the head baseball coach for 1 year and the head basketball coach for 4 years, I believe is what it was, before Jamie LaSalle came here, and I was an assistant football coach and defensive coordinator under him for 3 years. Was also an assistant coach under Bill Vors for 1. So I had about 6 years of assistant coaching experience, and want to be the head football coach someday at Marionville. And that opportunity opened up whenever Jamie left Marionville, and I was fortunate enough to get that job. And here we are now 6 years later, and seasons like this are a lot more fun than that first year of 2-8. So I'll tell you that much. But I've coached with a lot of great guys, like you said. I mentioned Lance Roten and Shad Edwards. Here at Marionville, I got to coach under Jamie LaSalle and Bill Voris, who Bill's now having a lot of success at Fairgrove. And then I've got to coach with and make good friends with guys like Jack Altermat, who's an assistant coach at Sir Coxey now, and was AD here for a while when I first got my head coaching job. So I have appreciate Jack a lot. And then now here, I've been fortunate enough. We have a great staff here at Marionville. I would argue that it's probably one of the better Class 1 staffs. Have 2 Evangel guys here on staff with me. One being Mark Mark Blankenship, who's our special teams guy and wide receivers coach. And then I have Josh Evans, who came over to us from Pleasant Hope. He's coaching the defensive line, and he's really made a turn for the better for us on the defensive side. And I think that's had a lot to do with our defensive success this year is having an All-American like Josh be able to coach our defensive line and teach them some of the tricks of the trade. And the kids really look up to him, and he does a great job with them, especially in the weight room. He also runs our weight room now. And then I have Jake Gideon, who's our offensive line coach, and just does a fantastic job. Great young coach. Possibly going to be a head coach someday. Hopefully it's a ways down the road though, because I really enjoy having him here. And then we have a defensive coordinator, Matt Price, that calls the defense and leads the defensive side of the ball. So just very blessed, very fortunate. The administration here at Marionville's put us in a good spot from a coaching standpoint. And, we have a lot of guys that know the game of football, and more than anything, a lot of guys that, are great at building relationships with our young kids and teach them to be young men. So very, very blessed and very fortunate.
You bet. A lot of connections there as you read through that. I also played, baseball at Southwest Baptist University, and Coach Roten actually coached Lance Roten his senior year in American Legion baseball, and then he was my assistant coach for a little bit. And Jamie LaSalle and I grew up together. My dad coached with his dad, Jim LaSalle.
Oh yeah, I love Jim. He's a hoot, I guess you could say, man. I love how he gets fired up on Friday nights. I miss that.
And of course, Bill Voris had spent some time in Mount Vernon, where I'm from. So it's just a big circle,
Yeah,
keeps going
small
around
world after all. Yeah.
It is indeed. Well, Coach, hey, thank you so much for being generous with your time here today. Best of luck as you take on Sir Coxie, and hopefully we'll get to visit with you if you get some time free. We'll get you back here on the Missouri Sports Network.
Yes, sir. Hey, thanks for having me. I really appreciate it. Go Comets.
You bet. You bet. You're listening to High School Game Day here on the Missouri Sports Network, MissouriSportsNetwork.com, where everyone has a home field advantage. And we'll be back after this.